This is our time with Carolina Coral. Viewers of freedom, let's go to the news. 2 people were injured in a Russian attack on Sumy region. Residential buildings, warehouses, and power lines were damaged. The Odesa region was also hit by Russian military strikes. Civilian facilities and the facade of a 4-story building were damaged. 2 people were hurt by Russian shelling in Kharkiv region. Local officials say Russians hit Prikolatin in Kupiansk. The victims were women aged 55 and 75. 7 private homes were damaged. Dnipropetrovsk region was hit by Russian fire. The State Emergency Service of Ukraine says Russian forces attacked Sinelnikov district and Nikopol with drones. As a result of the strike, the dome of one of the churches, a private house, and a bank building caught fire. Rescuers quickly extinguished the fire, and there were no casualties. Russian troops shelled the Korabelny district of Kherson, and according to the local administration, as a result of the shelling, 2 local women were injured and hospitalized. A school, residential buildings were hit. In addition, the Russians also struck at civilians in the settlement, Kamysheny, in the suburbs of Kherson. There, 1 woman was also wounded. She requires outpatient treatment.
Right there, where you came from, we were sweeping, and it just flew right by. Just like that. We quickly ran in there. We have a basement there. 265.
Battles were recorded by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine over the past day along the entire front line. The Defense Forces repelled 13 Russian assaults, each on the Heliopol and Sloviansk bridgeheads. Ukrainian defenders repelled 24 enemy attacks in the Lyman direction. Russian attempts to break through defenses were stopped. 26 in the southern Slobozansky sector, 27 in Oleksandrivka, and 29 in Kostantinivka. Pokrovsk remains the hottest spot. There, Russian occupiers tried to advance 97 times. In addition, Ukrainian defense forces eliminated another 1,090 Russian occupiers on the front lines over the past day. And thus, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the total combat losses of the Russian army since the start of the full-scale invasion have already exceeded 1,152,000 personnel. In addition, Ukrainian fighters burned 7 Russian tanks, the same number of armored vehicles, 9 artillery systems, and destroyed 77 units of automotive equipment. On Monday night, Russia launched 74 aerial targets at Ukraine. Specifically, 2 Kinzhal aeroballistic missiles and 5 S-300 surface-to-air guided missiles. They also attacked with strike drones. The Ukrainian Air Force counted 67 drones of various types. Most of them were Shahids. The Russian army launched them from 5 different directions. Ukrainian air defenders shot down or neutralized 52 Russian drones in the east, south, and center of the country. About 15 drones hit 9 different locations. Chaos, unsanitary conditions, alcohol, and drugs. These are the main reasons for the increase in non-combat losses in the Russian army. This was reported by the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. In Russia's central military district, more than 600 servicemen have died over the past 2 years. Last year, more than 70 Russian soldiers took their own lives, let's say, by their own choice. In the first half of 2025, there have already been 86 such cases. In addition, intelligence noted that 32 people died due to poor nutrition and more than 100 from the use of illegal substances.
In less than all of 2025, there have already been 112 recorded deaths from drug poisoning, which is almost as many as for the entire year of 2024. At that time, 143 people died. The rise in suicides, crime, and drug abuse among Russian military personnel is a sign of deep demoralization within the occupying forces, according to a statement from the main intelligence directorate of the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense on Telegram.
Latvia has delivered 62 vehicles to the Ukrainian military. In addition to vehicles, they delivered batteries, medicines, and food supplies. Our correspondents witnessed how the aid was handed over.
Victor Misura, call sign mechanic, is inspecting an SUV together with his comrades. This Jeep and 2 other similar vehicles are being handed over to his unit. He serves in the 225th Separate Assault Regiment. They are holding back the Russian advance in the Sumy and Donetsk directions. The vehicle will work. It just needs a little work done on it. We need to put on more aggressive tires so it can get through the mud. Very soon, it will have to go out on missions, since there's a big need for vehicles for the drone operators. And in general, transportation is the main component of logistics. Since the start of the full-scale invasion, Sumy from Latvia has been serving as a combat medic in Ukraine. She came from the front lines to receive a vehicle from her fellow countrymen.
I saw that in Ukraine, hospitals were bombed by missiles, doctors, nurses, and patients were killed. That's why I'm here. 2 vehicles. One is going to the medical company for a mobile surgical unit, and one to my guys, because we're drone operators.
In modern warfare, military vehicles have often become expendable. The military say, break time equals 0.5s/. So the need for them is constant.
For moving personnel, to destroy the enemy, and to transport to command posts. Also for evacuation.
SUVs, crossovers, minibuses, and minivans. These are the types of vehicles Latvians have decided to provide to various units of the Ukrainian Defense Forces. Thanks to cooperation between Latvian and Ukrainian charities, aid for both the military and civilians has long since become a constant, uninterrupted flow.
They've been helping us for quite a while now, since the start of the full-scale war. This time, the largest number of vehicles has arrived, over 60 units. They're in very good condition.
Richards is one of the Latvian volunteers. Along with the vehicles, he also brought a gift.
They made these little socks for young children who have lost their parents. At least to warm them up somehow, to warm their little hearts and send our love from Latvia to you, Ukrainians. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes.
The vehicles were provided by 2 charitable foundations and a Latvian state-owned company. At first, it was the initiative of 100 vehicles for Ukraine, but in the more than 3 years since the full-scale invasion, that number has surpassed 200 units.
They brought more than 60 generators, eco-flows, everything that's needed. There's also a small truck and 2 large transformers for the state. In turn, has a direct consequence.
The Ukrainian defenders presented letters of gratitude from their units.
Latvia is well aware that if they don't help us, if the world doesn't help us, everything will come back around. And again, I tell everyone, Bucha will be wherever there are Russian soldiers.
All the vehicles that were handed over immediately went to more than 10 Defense Force units, to the military and law enforcement officers who are defending Ukraine in the hottest spots. Havlo Melnichuk from Volyn region for Freedom TV channel.
The measures that have been taken against aerial provocations from Belarus are already yielding results, said Lithuania's Minister of Internal Affairs, Vladislav Kondratovich, on Lithuanian national television. He noted that this month, far fewer weather balloons carrying contraband have entered the country's airspace. If last month there were about 70, then by November 10th there were only 7 or 8. According to the minister, this demonstrates the effectiveness of the increased border control.
It's already a third of the month, so we can see that the pressure we've been applying since the end of last month, since October, is already producing results. To prevent the threat of smuggling via balloons, a joint investigative team was created, which includes officers from the State Border Guard Service, the Lithuanian Police, and the Customs Criminal Service. It's still too early to talk about the results of the joint group's work, but I am very pleased with the dedication I have seen and continue to see. There's no need to push the staff to do anything. They take the initiative themselves and do their job. There are additional cases, new suspects, and new detainees. Vladislav Kondratovich, Minister of Internal Affairs of Lithuania, on LRT Air.
Incidents involving drones continue to be recorded in Western Europe. In Belgium, over the past few days, 3 unidentified drones were spotted over a nuclear power plant, and flights at Liège airport were temporarily suspended due to the threat. Weeks earlier, similar objects had been repeatedly seen over the airports of Brussels and Liège, as well as over military bases. EU countries view such incidents as a possible element of reconnaissance, a method of psychological pressure, or perhaps as a way to assess the readiness of special services. Russia's drone attacks on European countries are a test of Europe's and NATO's response. This is the opinion of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. According to him, Europe often sees its own countermeasures as escalation, while Moscow perceives caution as weakness. Russia uses any concessions to gain political and energy advantages, keeping Ukraine and European states under pressure. The Ukrainian leader emphasized that such incidents show the Kremlin's readiness to exploit any weaknesses. Moreover, this is how Putin gauges the reaction of the US and NATO. Zelensky stressed that these actions pose a real threat to the integrity of Europe.
Weakness does not lead to dialogue with Russia. For Russians, it's just weakness, nothing more. And that means they can impose their own narratives. That's what's happening. So, to answer the question about what this is overall, the violation of European airspace in different countries by drones, it's all tests. Tests for Europe, tests of their response. All these drone attacks by Putin are tests to see what they're capable of. It's a test to see how America will respond to the current threat against European countries that are members of NATO. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And I believe all these tests are dangerous for the integrity of Europe. Volodymyr Zelensky.
And he's trying to create an illusion of strength through hybrid attacks. But in doing so, he's only trying to make up for military failures.
He set goals, he didn't achieve them, and that's why he needs to show some kind of accomplishments. And why do his attacks turn into acts of terrorism? Civilians are dying. Many are wounded. People are left without electricity, without water. Because he can't create tension within our society any other way. He understands that we've united not just the country, but all of Europe around us. And it's very hard to break that. He's trying to do it. Now he needs to show that he's in control. He wants to find some operations that he can sell as successes to his own society. Whether it's drones or an energy attack on us or a cyber attack on Germany, the UK, or France. This is a hybrid war. And it's a hybrid war in Europe where Ukraine is paying the highest price because the physical war is happening on our territory.
Ukraine plans to order 27 Patriot air defense systems from American manufacturers. President Volodymyr Zelensky announced this in an interview with The Guardian. According to him, Kyiv is working closely with international partners to strengthen the protection of Ukrainian airspace from Russian attacks. In addition, Zelensky added that European countries could provide Ukraine with their own Patriot systems that they already have. The Ukrainian armed forces are confidently holding their positions on the approaches to Myrnohrad and in Pokrovsk, destroying Russian occupiers. Russia is using all its reserves, but is suffering heavy losses. This was reported by Andriy Kovalev, spokesperson for the Ukrainian Armed Forces General Staff. He said logistics in Myrnohrad are difficult, but maintained. Claims that the enemy fully controls supply routes or that the city is encircled are false. In Pokrovsk, search and strike operations continue, and enemy positions in the city are being destroyed.
The day before, the units defending the city received the necessary weapons and ammunition. In addition, there was a rotation of personnel and evacuation of the wounded. Logistics and rotation of our units in the city of Pokrovsk are being ensured in the same way. Andriy Kovalev, spokesperson for the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, in a comment to RBC Ukraine.
At the same time, analysts from the Institute for the Study of War note that the pace of the Russian advance has temporarily slowed. But Russia is ramping up logistics and sending in reinforcements, which could lead to a new wave of assaults. Geolocated data from November 6th shows slight progress toward Myrnohrad, but it is much less than in previous days. The situation in the Pokrovsk direction is becoming crucial for both Ukraine and Russia. And it is here that the Russian army is suffering record losses. Attempts at covert mobilization and changes in offensive pace. Andriy Kovalenko, head of the Center for Countering Disinformation at Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, says Russia is trying to offset huge losses through covert mobilization. This includes moving conscripts to contract service and recruiting reservists for security at key facilities in different regions. Kovalenko emphasizes that the number of contract soldiers has sharply decreased. The recruitment of foreigners does not make up for the losses, and Moscow is simply forced to look for additional ways to fill its manpower needs.
Subscribe to The Gaze and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.